Hello, lovely viewers. You are most welcome to our channel Poetry Online. In this video, we shall be discussing the summary, detailed analysis, literal devices, and major themes of the poem Least We Should Be the Last by Kwesi Brew. Kindly subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to get updates on all our new videos. Once again, let us assure you of a very interesting discussion. Get ready for this lesson. Kwesi Brew was born in 1928 at Cape Coast in Ghana. He was educated in various towns in Ghana and at the University of Ghana, Legon. He won the poetry competition organized by the British Council. He joined the Administrative Service of Ghana in 1953 and has since worked in various places and in varied capacities. His poems reflect a deeper understanding and appreciation of the African culture and its heritage. He is one of Africa's best poets, and Least We Should Be the Last is one of his famous poems. This poem has been interpreted by different schools of thought in diverse ways. In this video, we will present to you the various interpretations that have been advanced so far. Least We Should Be the Last is a poem written by a seasoned Ghanaian writer called Kwesi Brew. This poem captures the gullible and blind attitude of Ghanaians and Africans at large during the colonial and post-colonial period. The colonial and post-colonial period were characterized by the alienation of the African traditional religion, culture, beliefs, and practices. This period was also characterized by the mad rush of Africans to look like, dress like, and act like the white man. They considered the white man's culture superior to theirs, and as such considered it the solution to all their problems. These Africans believed in the white man's superiority and abandoned their own culture in the quest for both spiritual salvation and political fulfillment. According to the poet, Africans were so feverish to meet their colonial masters or to meet Europeans, and as such, they embraced blindly the white man's culture while ignoring or abandoning their own culture. The diction of the poet is straightforward and simple, and uses everyday language to convey his message. This poem seeks to explore the agony, disillusionment, pity, and ultimate frustration and disappointment that lay ambushed, patiently waiting for Africans. After Africans blindly followed the whites, while abandoning their own culture, all in the name of civilization, modernization, political fulfillment, and spiritual salvation, they were met with disappointment, ultimate frustration, and disappointment. Let's now take our first reading of the poem, Least We Should Be the Last by Kwesi Brew. Least we should be the last to appear before you. We left our corn in the barn, and unprepared we followed, the winding way to your heart. Our children begged for water, from the women bearing golden gadgets on their heads, and laughing their way from the well, but we did not stop, knowing that, in your presence, our hunger will be banished, and our thirst assuaged by the flowing milk of your words. Now, we have come to you, and are amazed to find those you have loved and respected mock you in the face. This poem can be interpreted on three levels. The first group of people argued that the poem expresses the shock and disappointment that Africans who left the African continent to seek greener pastures in the Western countries were faced with. This is because most people claim that the Europeans brought Christianity, or better still, they brought religion to Africa, and as such, they expect them to behave like angels. Those who hold this view were clearly disappointed by the level of hypocrisy and lack of humility and humanity demonstrated against black people in the Western countries. Thus, people who preach the love of God, or people who preach equality of all races, treated black people with so much disrespect and discrimination. Those who claim to have brought religion to Africa do not practice what they preach. The second group of people argued that this poem describes the spiritual journey of Africans towards spiritual salvation and genuine spiritual fulfillment. The poem describes the hardship Africans were faced with on their way to salvation. Just as the people left unprepared, the same way the disciples of Jesus Christ left everything they were doing in order to accomplish their new mission on earth. The third group of people argued that this poem is a political satire that criticizes the attitude of Africans during the colonial and post colonial era, who thought that the white man's ways of doing things was a solution to the numerous problems of the African continent. But after blindly following or imitating the white man's ways, they realized too late that the white man's culture was not the solution it promises to be, which left Africans in total disappointment and frustration. Africa as a continent is blessed with numerous resources, yet, after their encounter with the Western world, Africans have been reduced to beggars. This loss of respect and dignity, coupled with the tone of the poem and the hasty approach of Africans, satirizes them to that effect as they are met with disappointment, mockery, hypocrisy, and a harsh reality at the end of the poem. A critical examination of the poem into its totality, however, seems to imply the political and religious disappointment of newly independent African states who, without thinking, accepted wholesale everything Western, thinking that it was a solution to their numerous problems, but were shocked to see the harsh realities on the ground, which led to disappointment and disillusionment. The poem itself was beautifully crafted and written by Kwesi Brew to reflect the gullible and blind attitude of Africans. Kwesi Brew builds up an atmosphere and attitude of good expectation or good outcome or profit, and gradually changes this good expectation to disappointment. Thus, there is no clear resolution in the poem, as the poem attains and ends with a climax of disappointment. Let's now take a detailed analysis of the lines contained in the poem, beginning with the first two lines of the poem. Least we should be the last to appear before you. The poem opens with a high sense of expectation. These lines are more or less a vow or a promise by the speaker and to a large extent by Africans not to appear late before their colonial masters. The white man or the missionaries or the colonial masters were considered as an embodiment of God and perfection in the colonial era. Hence, we are not surprised with these lines, lest we should be the last to appear before you. This is more or less like a vow or a promise not to appear last before the colonial masters. The opening lines of the poem informs us of the speed and the hasty approach of Africans. The mood of the Africans in these lines is one of happiness and expectancy. Thus, they expect something good to come from meeting their colonial masters, people they considered an embodiment of goodness, or an embodiment of perfection, or an embodiment of God. Let's go on with our analysis. We left our corn in the barn, and unprepared we followed, the winding ways to your heart. Africans, in a bid to appear first before the colonial masters, abandoned their means of livelihood to welcome the new religion, as they projected that this new religion, or this new ideologies, or this new culture is going to be the solution to all their problems. They abandoned their culture, tradition, and faith to embrace a new faith that promises total salvation and spiritual satisfaction. The speed to reach the colonial master or the master's abode was characterized by great urgency and deep spiritual compulsion, such that Africans had to leave their jobs unfinished, and in a state of unpreparedness, they blindly followed the white man. It is worth noting that Africans believed wholesale everything that was told to them by the Europeans or by the missionaries, and everything they hold about their culture and their superiority over Africans. Hence, they follow the white man without any iota of doubt, or they follow the white man with an attitude of complete compliance, even to their own discomfort. We left our corn in the barn, and unprepared we followed, the winding way to your heart. So even though they were following them at their own discomfort, Africans were not bothered about that, as they projected that or they speculated that the outcome of the meeting was going to turn out to be good. The use of the lexical item, unprepared, further heightens the hasty and reckless approach of Africans to the white or colonial masters or the missionaries. Without thorough investigation and observation, they blindly believe in the words of the white man. Notice how the speaker describes the way leading to the master's abode. The winding way. A winding way in the poem means the road was not straightforward, but rather serpentine or snake-like. Thus, the road leading to the master's abode was snake-like, had a lot of curves, and was not straight or not straightforward. Since the road is described as winding way, we can clearly see that this road was serpentine or snake-like, and we all know what the snake did to Eve in the Garden of Eden, or what a snake did to mankind in the Garden of Eden. A snake is known for its deceptive nature. Hence, what the poet is trying to tell us is that the road leading to the white man's abode, or the white man's land, or the master's abode was marked by complexity and deception. Thus, not only was the road leading to the abode of the white man's land or the white man's abode marked by complexity and deception, even their utterances and behavior were deceptive. The speaker in this line uses powerful images to help us visualize or perceive the complexity or difficulty of the winding road. Our children beg for water from the women bearing golden gadgets on their heads and laughing their way from the well. The actions the Africans took in the very first two lines of the poem has started having some implications or some effects on them. In their quest to meet their colonial masters or the missionaries, they left their source of livelihood, and now their children have been reduced to beggars. Thus, Africans have now been tied to the apron strings of their colonial masters to an extent that they have been reduced to mere beggars. Thus, Africans cannot take a step forward or backwards without consulting their colonial masters. Africans have been stripped of their dignity and respect. The use of golden gadgets in the poem adds to the beauty, wealth, and satisfaction of the women. It is also interesting to note that the attitude of the woman says a lot about the spiritual salvation and political fulfillment that Africans are seeking for. It is said that they are laughing on their way from the well. This mocking attitude underscores their skepticism, disbelief, and doubt about the efficacy of Africans' quest for genuine spiritual fulfillment and political fulfillment. But is this enough to prevent or stop Africans from going forward in their quest for political fulfillment and spiritual salvation? Let's find out. But we did not stop, knowing that in your presence our hunger will be banished and our thirst assuaged by the flowing milk of your words. Notice the line, but we did not stop. But we did not stop implies that, despite the red flags they saw on their way, they were still willing or still bent on seeing or meeting the colonial masters. Thus, the winding way does not deter them from their quest to seek spiritual or political fulfillment. The disbelief and doubt of the women carrying golden gadgets too was not enough to compel them to abandon their quest or mission to meet their colonial masters. This is because they believed in whatever that was presented to them by their masters. That is, they wrongly believed that in the presence of their colonial masters, all their problems will be solved. Knowing that in your presence, our hunger will be banished and our thirst assuaged, they considered the white man and his culture as the solution to all the problems of Africa. And by so doing, they trusted them wholeheartedly. By the flowing milk of your words, depicts the persuasive, and convincing language of the colonial masters or the missionaries. This revealed the gullible nature of Africans, as they easily believe in the ways of the white man. No wonder they did not heed to all the warning signs they came across on their way to the master's abode. From our ongoing discussion, it is clear from all indication that the colonial masters are sweet talkers. Hence, they were able to convince Africans into believing that they were an embodiment of perfection, or they were an embodiment of God or religion. Now, we have come to you and are amazed to find those you have loved and respected mock you in the face. At long last, the speaker and his people have finally arrived or reached the master's abode and are amazed or shocked at the hypocrisy depicted by the colonialists or the missionaries. The poem ends on a note of disappointment of the new converts to Christianity, and they have become laughingstocks to the rest of the world. The poem equally echoes the disappointment of the newly independent African countries after their futile, complex, and tiresome journey or mission to attain both spiritual and political fulfillment from the Western world. This hasty and reckless mission or quest has reduced Africans to beggars and stripped them away of all their dignity and respect. At the end of the day, Africans have become laughingstocks to the rest of the world. Let's now consider the major themes explored in this poem. We come across the theme of disappointment or disillusionment of newly independent African states, the theme of spiritual fulfillment, the theme of hypocrisy, and the theme of political exploitation. Thanks for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video.